This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and this is the Samsung Galaxy S8. Galaxy S time is always a big deal for everybody. Most popular Android phone, at least the one that gets the most attention, because it's, well, this year it's the most gorgeous phone that I've seen so far, and it has the most stunning AMOLED display. I mean, look at those colors, right? Oh my gosh. It's also very fast. It has the new Snapdragon 835, one of the first phones to have that. There's a catch, of course. It's expensive. It's $750 approximately for the S8, $850 approximately for the S8 Plus, which is the bigger screen phone, though not too monumentally huge. And also, for you people who are not into the whole edge thing, there is no flat screen version like there was for the S7. There is only curve option right now. Now, it's gorgeous looking, and they have certainly improved it so that I love the way the S7 Edge looked, but it drove me crazy because I was always accidentally activating the edge screen. Not happening this time. So I'm kind of okay with it, other than the fact that this is going to be delicate because you have glass front, you have glass back. Speaking of the back, it's available in your choice of black, silver, or this, which is called Orchid. We're going to look at it now. So the Galaxy S8 has a 5.8-inch screen, yet it's not much bigger than the old S7. I mean, it's really pretty amazing, right? When you see them side by side. How is that happening? Well, I'll tell you how that's happening. This is a very tall screen. What they're doing, with the LG, we had a 2:1 aspect ratio, 18:9. Samsung's gone a little bit farther. It's 18.5:9 in terms of aspect ratio. The resolution right there is, as you can see, 2960 by 1440. Now, oddly, by the way the phone ships, it defaults to a lower resolution. I guess it's trying to probably save some battery power by doing that. So I have set it up to maximum resolution here. So what that means is the phone is going to be narrow and easier to hold in your hand. And in fact, it really is. It feels downright tiny to me because I usually use a Pixel XL and an iPhone 7 Plus. But what are you losing and what are you gaining here? So this is a 5.5-inch Pixel XL. So if we take our handy dandy ruler and we measure with centimeters the usable screen size, you can see we come out to right where my fingernail is. So 5.5 inches, this is 5.8 inches. That doesn't mean you're going to get it wider here. Now, if you take a look at it and you put it across just like that, you'll see it's actually considerably narrower over here. So you're not getting a bigger screen in all dimensions. Obviously, in height, that's where you're doing the big gain here. So let's put them back over here together, and you can just see by the backlighting that you've got extra height over here. Now, the challenge is not all applications support that. So you'll get black bars top and bottom, or side by side, depending on how you're holding the phone, what orientation, but over here and over here, if they don't support it. Also, if you're watching something like typical 16:9 content on YouTube or Netflix, and well, it's still going to have black bars on the side. So that screen real estate is not always used. But however, you know what, even some games that supposedly the device actually has a little override where you can stretch content. It thinks Asphalt 8 doesn't support it, and it does play in full screen, and you'll see that happening. Chrome supports it, and all that sort of thing. So here's the full screen apps button. So what it'll do, it will stretch things. If it thinks it's supported, it will enable it. Otherwise, it won't enable it. Now you can see here we have the usual automatic brightness, and when automatic brightness is on, this can achieve up to almost 1,000 nits of brightness, which is just insane. Now it'll only do that in automatic mode when you're in very bright light, because otherwise you would just like destroy the battery life really quickly. And as ever with Samsung, you have a couple of different display modes. The default is adaptive. It looks at the content and zings it up for you automatically. There's HDR mode here. There's the extra vivid movie playback feature also on board. Then there's manual color balance as well. So if you actually put it in AMOLED photo, it's pretty darn color accurate. Instead of being exaggerated the way, adaptive mode tends to be, and a lot of people like that with the super zinging colors, it's pretty close to being color accurate. There's still a blue bias to the screen no matter what, but as phones go, that's not an unusual problem to have. Notice the back button is actually where it belongs over here. You can now control the location of the back and the multitasking buttons instead of Samsung doing it backwards from everybody else. This home button here, since there is no longer a physical home button on the front, you have a software one, and there's a little haptic engine underneath. So it'll actually vibrate, which is kind of neat when you touch it and you feel it. So even if it's in full screen mode, you can tap that. Of course, the trick is if something is running in full screen mode, you still can't really see it. So I guess the haptics are just there to help you know you finally found the right spot. Now, in terms of looks, clearly it's a winner. It makes the old Galaxy S7 Edge look, kind of old-fashioned, doesn't it? And granted, this one's in gaudy gold, which may or may not help it depending on your preferences. The LG G6, however, has kind of a modern, clean design. It's not going to really push the envelope in design, but it looks pretty modern and nice. And the Pixel XL right here, well, it looks a little bit old-fashioned, but you know what? The Pixel XL has never really been so much about the looks. That's for sure. Now, some people say that once you see this, everything else looks old-fashioned. I'm not sure I would agree. Here's the good old iPhone 7. That's a pretty attractive and clean-looking phone still in terms of design. And even the Huawei P10, which really does copy the iPhone as it happens, looks pretty clean and modern too. So I would say for Samsung, it's definitely a big leap forward from the S7 Edge design, which is impressive because last year the S7 Edge wowed everybody, including me, in terms of looks. Well, let's talk about the edginess of the phone next. Samsung changed the angle of the curve here to try to help with accidental touches. I love the S7 Edge. I did not end up using it as a daily driver because I was always accidentally activating the edge of the screen. They try to do essentially what you would call palm rejection, to ignore side touches, but often enough I would accidentally activate things. I have to say that with this one, I have not once done something I didn't intend to do. So they've really done a good job. Now, the question is, do you like the edge screen? And I leave that up to you. It's pretty, makes the phone pretty looking, but functionally it doesn't serve a whole lot of purpose. Yes, there are the edge screens you can pull out, so you can have your quick launcher here, and you can have your color notification when somebody calls in, that sort of thing. But beyond that, it isn't doing a whole heck of a lot other than making the phone look nice. And some of your screen real estate actually wraps around the side, so it's hard to consider that as part of the usable screen real estate because you have a little bit of apex distortion going on here. But really, they did do a good job. I mean, I don't see a whole lot of distortion along this edge, the way I did say even on the S7 Edge model. And it's, well, it's pretty, but again, I leave it to you. The thing is that this thing is going to be something you definitely want to put a case on. And I usually don't use cases on my phone, so I'm kind of bummed at the idea of that because I would hate to think what happens when you drop this face down. So far, the drop tests I've seen say it doesn't do that well. And of course, we have glass on the back. It loves fingerprints, and it's also a delicate thing. We do have metal around the sides, and that's where our combo micro SD card slot, compatible with cards up to 256 gigs, and nano SIM slot is. And we have the usual volume controls, and we have the Bixby button for Samsung's own virtual assistant, which for now is kind of a bust. Why? Because the voice command feature isn't going to be available for a couple of months. And that's the thing I think people will be most interested in seeing. So right now it largely replicates the functions of Google Assistant anyway, all while throwing in a little social networking integration if you like it. There is a third-party utility called BX Actions. If you want to remap the Bixby button, you can using that. Samsung does not give you that ability out of the box. Bottom has a headphone jack. Yay! USB-C port and the speaker, single mono speaker, and typical of phones like this, if you're gaming or holding it and watching a movie and you cover it with your hand by accident, the sound is completely muffled. It's an average sounding speaker. It's nothing to write home about. And here we have the power button. So, fingerprint scanner gone from the front, obviously. No hardware buttons. Where has it gone? It's gone on the back, where everybody seems to hate it. Not just because it's on the back. I mean, LG does that right here with the lint-loving G6. But see how it's lower than the camera, and it's pretty well delineated with metal, so you're going to find it pretty easily, and it's dropped down. Samsung couldn't do that because the battery is in this area. They did not have room. So it's right up here, so you're actually going to smudge your camera lens. And in fact, the camera application reminds you to clean your camera lens every so often because they know you're going to be smearing that. And if you're left-handed like me, it becomes a little bit more impossible. I use the phone with my right hand so I can poke at it with my left, and just reaching over there, and this is just the S8. That's a pretty long stretch. I have long fingers. That's hard. If you go for the S8 Plus, it gets to be even harder. Thus, we have other biometric methods of unlocking this. In addition to the usual pin and pattern unlocking, we have a front camera, and it can do iris scanning, and it is improved over the Note 7, RIP Note 7, sad to see you go. It's improved over the Note 7's iris scanner, but still, if you're moving, if you're in a dark kind of place, and I don't mean darkness, but not well lit, it falters. But then, it also has facial recognition. The problem is facial recognition is not very secure, and it can be fooled by a picture of your face, and so on. There it is. So you're not allowed to use it with Samsung Pay, for example, but you can use the iris and the fingerprint unlocking. But the facial recognition is darn quick and works pretty well. So they've added those on, I think, to compensate for the fact that this is going to annoy a lot of people. And given the fact that we used to have it so conveniently located right here, it's kind of a sad thing. Inside, we have the Snapdragon 835. That is the latest, greatest CPU from Qualcomm. So if you have a need for speed, this is going to be the phone for you. Now, that's a 10 nanometer CPU. What that means is it's even smaller process than the old 14 nanometer CPU, which means the phone runs cooler. It gets warm when you play demanding games. It doesn't get really, I'm a little bit scared hot anymore. That's a nice improvement. Now, countries outside the United States, you might get Samsung's own Exynos 8895. Which is also a 10 nanometer CPU. And so far in benchmarks, it performs similarly to the Snapdragon 835. It has 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of internal storage, so that's nice. LG still gives you 32, so you've got a little leg up there. And of course, you have that micro SD card slot too. Does it feel fast? Yes, it does. And years ago, we made jokes about how TouchWiz bogged down the phone. It does not feel bogged down. It does not feel slow. Will it feel that way in 3 months? Well, I'll let you know in 3 months. But out of the box in the first week of use, it's performing quite well. The phone has 4G LTE Cat 16, that's gigabit LTE, so upcoming 5G networks, it's ready. Of course, the networks aren't ready yet. It looks like probably 2019 or 2020 for national rollouts in the United States, but hey, it's cool that it's there. Also has Bluetooth 5. This is the first phone to have Bluetooth 5, and of course you have your usual NFC, dual band Wi-Fi, GPS with GLONASS, all the usual wireless features. The rear camera has the same specs as last year's model. I think that's a little bit of a mistake on Samsung's part because people love using the phones on their camera, and any improvement there is always welcome. It's still 12 megapixel, it's still an f1.7 lens. The software has been tweaked and improved though, at least. And I know Samsung was fooling around with some dual camera implementations, which are all the rage these days. You know, the LG G6, you can get a super wide angle lens, which is cool. With the iPhone 7 Plus, you can have the telephoto lens with portrait mode, but they didn't end up doing any of that here. So I think that's going to hurt a little bit. We do have, as you can see here, Bixby Vision integration. If you turn it on, you can put your camera in an object and it will do strange things like say, look, it's a banana. Maybe you want to buy some more bananas. Don't be fooled. This is a fake banana, but Bixby probably will be fooled. So here we are. We have Bixby Vision running now, and you have your option to either match it up with other images or go shopping. Let's go shopping and see if it knows it's a fake banana. No products found. I guess it figured out that was a fake banana, not a real banana. It doesn't know where you can get a banana stress toy. Oh well, let's try image. There we go. Fake bananas. You go. So that's Bixby. Let's return back to the camera. So here it's intuitive as ever. Samsung does a good job with that. You've got all your advanced settings. You've got your HDR mode, flash control, front and back camera swapping, stickers, effects, all those sort of things, access to your gallery, quick recording. This records 4K video at 30 frames per second. And you can swipe in like this to get to settings and effects. You got your panorama mode, you got slow mode. The only challenge here is because of the edge screen and the edge controls, sometimes you pull up the wrong thing. Oh well. Put in some sample photos and video, you can see that it takes good pictures. The cat was taken in a very low light situation, and I'm very impressed with the level of detail there. And the 4K video is sharp without looking over sharp, and it's still one of the nicest on the market. And the front camera is now up to 8 megapixels. It used to be 5. I had no issues with the front camera before, and it's really hard to tell the difference between 5 and 8 megapixels since most of us are not doing cinematic selfies, but it works just fine. The S8 has a 3000 milliamp battery. The S8 Plus has a 3500 milliamp battery, which is slightly smaller than the battery capacity in the S7 Edge. I would say it's a good thing that Samsung's not pushing the envelope too much here for battery capacity after what happened with the Note 7. Now they do an 8-way quality check on the batteries. So I would say that probably Samsung is the least likely to have battery problems right now because they are being so overly cautious right now compared to other manufacturers. What will happen in a couple of months? Will it burn up? I don't think so, but of course, I can't promise that. So would I buy this phone? Yeah, actually, I would. I'm not sure if I would get this with the S8 Plus, though, because I'm used to using a bigger phone, and it almost feels disconcertingly small, which is a great problem to have in terms of the feel in hand, I mean, and not in terms of looking at the screen. Of course, it is an expensive phone. A lot of people are going with monthly carrier payment plans, so that kind of takes some of the zing out of it. The LG G6 is about $100 cheaper, and is also a nice phone if you don't like the edginess of the screen. And then there are phones like the OnePlus 3T. That is a really sweet phone and a lot less money. It's going to be, I think, an ongoing challenge for the high-end Android phone manufacturers right now, that there are so many great phones out there at mid-price tags right now. So that's the Samsung Galaxy S8, and of course there's its slightly larger friend, but otherwise the same, the S8 Plus. Undeniably, this is the stunningest phone I have ever seen. Will somebody come up with something more gorgeous? Will Apple do it with the next iPhone? Well, who knows? Or the Note 8. What's the Note 8 going to look like, right? But it's going to be hard to top this one for a while. Of course, there's more than looks to consider. It is a very fast phone. It has a stunning display. The software has certainly improved. TouchWiz no longer makes me want to, go crazy. It's a pleasing experience. There are some drawbacks, though. The location of the fingerprint scanner, nobody seems to like that, me included. The iris scanner is kind of, you have to be in good light and not moving when you use it. The facial recognition works pretty well, but it's the one that's not very secure. Compared to last year's S7 and S7 Edge that had a fingerprint scanner on the front that just really worked well. It's too bad. And then we have Bixby and the Bixby button, which, thanks to third-party utility you can download, you can remap to do something else. It's really the most important part of Bixby, the voice recognition part, the voice commands. It's not going to be available until sometime later this spring, Samsung says. So those are a couple of ouchy gotchas for a very expensive flagship phone, and this doesn't operate in a vacuum. Still, I'm sure it'll sell well. I'm sure if you buy one, you're going to be very happy with it. And if you want to know how it compares to phones like the LG G6, also with a very tall display, shout out in the comments. We'll make it happen. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos, and thumbs up if you like this video.